There's a quiet power that comes when you stop reacting to everything, a freedom that shows up the moment you decide your peace is not up for grabs. In a world that profits from your outrage, your overthinking, your constant need to explain or defend, being unbothered is a radical act of strength. Being unbothered is often misunderstood. People assume it means not caring, being emotionally cold or disconnected from the world. But in reality, being unbothered is not apathy. It's a form of emotional discipline. It's the conscious choice to guard your peace, not because you don't feel deeply, but because you've learned to manage those feelings with wisdom and strength. Emotional discipline means recognizing that not every situation deserves your energy. It means choosing when and how to respond, rather than being controlled by every impulse or provocation. It's not about shutting down or numbing out. It's about knowing yourself so well that you don't have to act out. You feel the frustration, the disappointment, even the anger, but you don't let those emotions run the show. You take a breath, you process, you respond from intention, not from heat. To be unbothered in this way is to stand firm in who you are. It's having the inner strength to let things go, to not internalize every slight or criticism, to refuse to let someone else's chaos become your own. And that takes discipline. It takes maturity. It takes a level of self-awareness that doesn't come easily or quickly. You train for it like you would a muscle, by noticing the small moments where you're tempted to react and making a better choice instead. People who are emotionally disciplined aren't passive, they're just selective. They understand that life throws curveballs and people won't always treat you right. But rather than sink into victimhood or rage, they stay rooted in their values. They refuse to let their mood be dictated by someone else's actions. That doesn't mean they don't set boundaries or speak up when necessary. It means they do so with clarity and control, not from a place of emotional chaos. When you're unbothered in this way, you start to notice how much calmer your life becomes. You're no longer addicted to reacting. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing closure in places that were never meant to give it. Your energy returns to you. Your mind gets clearer. You gain the emotional bandwidth to focus on what truly matters. Your growth, your goals, your peace. Discipline of this kind isn't about perfection. You'll still have moments where emotions rise, where old habits try to pull you back in. But the difference is in your response. Instead of letting those moments derail you, you catch them. You pause. You make a better decision. And every time you do, you reinforce your inner strength. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive chaos. You stay calm in it. Being unbothered is not about pretending nothing affects you. It's about acknowledging what does and choosing not to give it more power than it deserves. It's about rising above drama, not because you're above people, but because you're committed to protecting your peace. And that commitment is the foundation of emotional discipline. It's what separates temporary calm from lasting control. This isn't something that happens overnight. It's built through small, deliberate actions. Through choosing silence when it's wise, through letting go of battles that don't matter, through reminding yourself that your energy is sacred. In a noisy world full of distractions and provocations, this kind of inner stillness is rare, but it's also where real strength lies. Emotional discipline turns you into someone who isn't shaken by storms, someone who doesn't need to shout to prove their power, someone who can walk away without looking back, because they know peace is always worth more than pride. Your peace is not just a pleasant feeling, it is a form of power. It is the mental clarity that allows you to make strong decisions, the emotional balance that keeps you centered during chaos, and the quiet confidence that carries you through uncertainty. Yet, many people give it away so easily. They hand it over to people who don't deserve it, to opinions that don't matter, and to situations that should have never had that kind of access in the first place. When you don't value your peace, you respond to everything. You let every comment, glance, or disagreement pull you into emotional warfare. You feel the need to defend yourself at every turn, to constantly explain, correct, and justify who you are or what you believe. It becomes exhausting, not because you're wrong, but because you've put your energy where it doesn't belong. You've allowed the noise of the world to drown out the clarity of your own mind. Protecting your peace means understanding that not every fight is yours to pick. Not every conversation needs a comeback. Not every offense deserves a reaction. It means learning to be selective about what reactivity is the quickest way to give away your power without even realizing it. It turns your emotions into weapons used against you by people or situations that don't deserve that control. When you react impulsively, out of anger, frustration, or fear, you allow external forces to dictate your inner state. You become like a puppet with strings attached to whatever stimulus appears next. And in that moment, you are no longer the one leading your life. You're simply responding to it. Every time you lash out, defend yourself unnecessarily, or get pulled into someone else's chaos, you hand over a piece of your strength. You signal to the world that you are easily triggered, easily manipulated, and easily distracted. Reactivity thrives on a lack of self-awareness. It convinces you that your response is justified, that you must act now, speak now, defend now, but more often than not, that rush to respond ends up costing you peace, relationships, and clarity. It rarely brings resolution. It only magnifies tension. Choosing calm over chaos isn't weakness. It's wisdom. The ability to pause, observe, and respond with intention is a mark of personal mastery. It requires strength to hold your ground without letting your emotions take over. It takes self-respect to decide that not everything deserves your time, your voice, or your energy. When you stop reacting and start responding, you regain control of the only thing you ever truly owned, yourself. The truth is, not everyone deserves an explanation, not every insult needs a reply, and not every situation demands your participation. Sometimes the most powerful move is silence. Sometimes walking away is the ultimate act of strength. Your ability to stay composed in the face of disrespect, misunderstanding, or chaos is not just impressive, it's transformative. It communicates that you operate on a higher frequency, one that can't be dragged down by petty conflict or emotional bait. You can't control the world, but you can control how you interact with it. You can train yourself to stop internalizing every piece of negativity that comes your way. You can learn to separate your identity from your emotions, to observe them without letting them define you. And when you do that, something shifts. You begin to reclaim your energy, your peace, your clarity. You no longer live life at the mercy of everything and everyone around you. Reactivity is impulsive. It's emotional debt that you'll have to pay later, but response, that calm, measured action born from presence and intention, is a form of self-respect. It's a declaration that your emotions are under your authority, not the world's. That your inner world is grounded enough to weather outer storms without crumbling. To regain your power, you don't have to become cold or detached. You have to become aware. You have to recognize your triggers and stop letting them run your life. You must replace the instinct to explode with the discipline to evaluate. You have to build the inner strength to respond in alignment with who you want to be, not how you feel in the moment. When you stop reacting, you begin leading. You shift from being a victim of circumstance to a master of response, and that shift is where true strength lies. It's where transformation begins. Not in controlling others or winning arguments, but in the quiet decision to protect your peace, guard your focus, and live from intention, not impulse. That's how you stop giving your power away, and start living with it. Being unbothered isn't about pretending that things don't affect you. It's about training your mind not to be ruled by every disturbance. It's a practiced discipline, not a personality trait. People aren't born unshakable. They become that way through repeated choices, mental habits, and a refusal to let the external world dictate their internal peace. It takes work to get to a point where your mood, confidence, and sense of self aren't tossed around by opinions, outcomes, or noise. The unbothered state is built one decision at a time. It starts when you catch yourself reacting to something that doesn't deserve your energy and choose to pause instead. It grows every time you decide not to engage in drama, not to overthink that comment, not to let temporary discomfort define your day. Over time, those small decisions turn into habits, and those habits become your emotional baseline, a grounded, focused presence that's not easily moved. To train your mind to be unbothered, you have to confront your need for approval, your attachment to outcomes, and your tendency to personalize everything. It requires deep self-awareness to admit when your reactivity is coming from insecurity. You learn to ask, why does this bother me? What am I trying to control? And what story am I telling myself? This internal dialogue slowly loosens the grip of ego and fear. You begin to understand that most things aren't personal, and even the ones that are don't have to define you. Being unbothered doesn't mean you're indifferent or emotionless. It means you're selective about what deserves your emotional investment. It's emotional intelligence in action. Instead of being ruled by impulses, you become strategic with your attention. You guard your peace the way you would guard a valuable possession, because it is. You realize that mental clarity is too expensive to waste on temporary disruptions. This mindset also involves accepting what you can't control. You stop trying to micromanage how people perceive you, how situations unfold, or how others behave. You let go of the illusion that everything needs your input. When you accept that not everything is your responsibility, you begin to breathe easier. You stop forcing things. You let the world move how it moves while staying centered in your lane. Unbothered people don't avoid challenges. They just don't let them define their identity. They've trained themselves to face discomfort without panic. They've learned that everything doesn't need a reaction, that peace sometimes comes from doing nothing at all. And they've become masters at choosing what to amplify and what to ignore. That's power. Key to this level of composure is consistency. You don't train your mind once and expect it to stay unshaken forever. It's daily work. Managing your focus, questioning your triggers, letting go of what drains you, and grounding yourself in what matters. It means choosing presence over performance, clarity over chaos, and self-respect over validation. In a world that thrives on distraction and emotional volatility, being unbothered is a rare kind of strength. It's not loud, it doesn't need to prove anything, it simply moves differently, quiet, focused, intentional, and in that space life becomes simpler, not because it's easier, but because you've trained your mind to see clearly, respond wisely, and remain calm regardless of the storm. Trying to control everything is a heavy burden. It creates tension, anxiety, and a constant sense of pressure to keep every detail perfectly aligned. But the truth is, most of life isn't under your control. Circumstances shift, people change, and outcomes don't always go as planned. The desire to control comes from fear of chaos, failure, or uncertainty, but fear is not a sustainable fuel. Eventually, it burns out, leaving behind frustration and exhaustion. Perspective, on the other hand, is a quiet kind of strength. It doesn't need to change the world to find peace. It just needs to change how the world is viewed. While control focuses on bending everything around you to your will, perspective transforms how you experience what happens. And in that shift, you gain something even more valuable than control: freedom. The freedom to remain grounded when things fall apart. The freedom to choose meaning over misery. The freedom to decide how you show up, no matter what shows up. Perspective is what allows two people to experience the same event, but walk away with completely different understandings. One sees it as a failure, the other as a lesson. One clings to anger, the other reaches for growth. The difference isn't in what happened, it's in how it's interpreted. That's the secret. Your power doesn't lie in controlling external events. It lies in how you respond internally. When you shift from control to perspective, you start asking better questions. Instead of "why is this happening to me?" you ask "what is this trying to teach me?" Instead of resisting discomfort, you look for the message within it. Perspective opens the door to resilience. It helps you see past the moment and into the bigger picture. It reminds you that seasons change, pain passes, and setbacks can be setups for something greater. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the illusion that peace is only possible when everything goes your way. It means understanding that life is dynamic and unpredictable, and your job isn't to manage every outcome, it's to manage your mindset through every outcome. With perspective, you don't need perfect conditions to find clarity. You just need the ability to see differently. When someone disrespects you, control says, "Fix them, prove your worth." But perspective says, "Their behavior reflects them, not me." When a plan fails, control says, "Force it, don't quit." But perspective says, maybe this isn't rejection, maybe it's redirection. In every challenge, there's a choice: grip tighter or see clearer. The latter gives you your power back, not because it changes the world, but because it changes how the world affects you. Perspective also breeds humility. It helps you realize you're not always supposed to have the answers. It reminds you that some answers only come after time, reflection, and growth. It teaches you to trust the process instead of rushing it. And with that trust comes a quieter mind, a softer heart, and a more flexible spirit. Control seeks perfection, perspective seeks meaning. One is rigid, the other adaptive. One is rooted in fear, the other in wisdom. When you start valuing perspective over control, you become more peaceful, not because life stops being hard, but because your inner world stops being chaotic. You stop reacting to every storm and start observing them, learning from them, and moving through them with purpose. In the end, control may win battles, but perspective wins the war. It's not about overpowering life, it's about understanding it, embracing it, and growing through it. And that mindset changes everything. Real strength is not loud. It doesn't need applause, attention, or validation. It doesn't scream for recognition or put on a show for others to witness. Instead, real strength shows up quietly, consistently, and powerfully in the moments no one sees, in the choices no one claps for, in the battles that happen behind closed doors. It's the discipline to keep going when quitting would be easier. It's the restraint to stay calm when provoked, the grace to forgive when it hurts, and the courage to stand alone when the crowd moves in another direction. In a world obsessed with loudness, loud opinions, loud achievements, loud personalities, quiet strength often goes unnoticed. But it is the quiet ones who carry the heaviest loads without complaint. It's the ones who don't need to boast that are often the most grounded. Strength doesn't always look like force. Sometimes it looks like stillness. It looks like showing up every day for yourself when no one is watching. It looks like holding your values in a world that pushes you to compromise. It looks like walking away from what no longer serves you, even when staying would feel more comfortable. Quiet strength is found in the person who keeps healing even after being broken, in the one who chooses not to respond to disrespect, not because they are weak, but because they've outgrown the need to prove themselves. It's in the steady hand during chaos, the calm voice in a heated room, and the thoughtful pause before a reaction. That kind of strength cannot be faked. It comes from deep self-awareness, from the clarity that your peace is not worth sacrificing to prove a point. There is a strength in staying kind in a cruel world, in staying hopeful after disappointment, and in staying honest in a culture that often rewards masks. Real strength doesn't come from dominance, it comes from discipline. It comes from choosing what's right over what's easy, even when no one would know the difference. It comes from a deep understanding that true power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. It takes strength to admit when you're wrong, to apologize sincerely, and to forgive genuinely. It takes strength to set boundaries, not walls, but healthy lines that protect your peace. It takes strength to walk away from what once felt like everything, simply because you've learned you deserve better. And it takes immense strength to keep believing in yourself when the world seems to have forgotten you. This kind of strength isn't flashy. It doesn't broadcast itself, but you can feel it when you're around someone who possesses it. There's a steadiness in their presence, a calm in their eyes, and a quiet confidence in the way they carry themselves. They don't need to be the loudest voice in the room because they've already made peace with who they are. They're not chasing approval. They're rooted in self-respect. Real strength is found in how you treat people when you have nothing to gain. It's in the patience to grow, the humility to learn, and the persistence to keep showing up. It's not about overpowering others. It's about lifting yourself and those around you in a way that leaves a lasting impact. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You don't have to shout to be strong. The world may celebrate noise, but it's often silence that speaks the loudest. Quiet strength doesn't demand attention. It commands respect. And that's the kind of strength that endures. Real strength doesn't shout. It stands firm. It doesn't seek attention. It earns respect. In a world that often mistakes volume for value, remember that the most powerful energy is steady, composed, and deeply rooted in self-awareness. True strength is in the quiet decisions you make every day, to stay calm when chaos surrounds you, to walk away when your peace is threatened, and to keep showing up without needing applause. Let others chase noise. You build something unshakable in silence. Because in the end, it's the quiet, disciplined, grounded ones who last, lead, and truly inspire.